Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Hi, and good morning. Welcome to Silver Linings. We're going to be talking about turning loneliness into self-discovery as we age. This is going to be a very important conversation, understanding and addressing loneliness in older adults and transforming it into a journey of personal growth and self-awareness. This discussion aims to truly dismantle the stigma around loneliness and highlighting the prevalence among seniors and proposing practical methods to challenge these feelings into self-discovery and fulfillment. Again, welcome. My name is Lori Hendren. I'm the Senior Associate State Director here at AARP Illinois, and we want to welcome you. At AARP, our mission is to empower all those as you age, advocating for issues that matter to individuals that are 50 plus, and making sure we bring resources to the community and advocacy to help support you and for personal fulfillment. Today's virtual event will explore how loneliness and aging can serve as a pathway to significant personal development and enhancement connections with oneself and a broader community. Joining us is our special guest, licensed and clinical social worker Kate, who will offer her expert insights on this important topic. Kate, thank you. You're a regular guest with us and your team, and we thank you. Kate's a founder and therapist of Life Changes Counseling and Care Planning. She's the director of the clinical practice with Older Adults Professional Development Program at the University of Chicago Crown Family School of Social Work, Policy and Practice, and she's immediate past president of the Illinois Coalition of Mental Health and Aging. So, Kate, as always, thank you. And I'm thrilled. I learned so much from these. So I want to dive into these questions. And again, if you're joining us, please add your questions, comments in, and we'll weave those into our conversation with Kate. We truly welcome that. Yeah. Kate, can you explain how loneliness can be viewed just not as a challenge, but as an opportunity for personal growth in later life?
Absolutely. I love this frame because it's a little unexpected. And the ways that I think the exploration can happen is rooted in the reality that loneliness is less about feeling alone and not having people to connect with. Loneliness is actually more about the sense of disconnection with people or resources or communities that we do have access to. So, as we think about loneliness in that way, that we can understand what is it that we're missing? What are we longing for? Do we have needs related to relationships or connection that are going unmet? I think that's a really important way for us to not only learn about ourselves, but also then be able to address the feeling of loneliness if we're feeling like we're ready to take that step.
Okay. What are some common misconceptions about loneliness and aging that you encounter in your practice?
There's a lot. Number one, I think the assumption that every single older person or family caregiver is going to be lonely and that loneliness can only be fixed by going out and meeting people or doing social things. I find so often in the literature, and it makes sense, when someone's feeling lonely, reach out, start going to senior centers, call a friend, etc. That's all true. And we know that's a powerful way of addressing loneliness. Mm-hmm. However, some people aren't ready for that. And so we need to think about it in this one-on-one way.
That's interesting that they're not ready for that. There's interesting. I like how you phrase that. Thank you. How can seniors identify the difference between harmful loneliness and beneficial solitude. Like I know I mean I have a family around me, but sometimes I'm okay being by myself. I'm okay if I go to a movie by myself or even go out and get a cup of coffee. It just centers me. But talk to us about the differences of harmful to beneficial.
You're absolutely right. My mother was someone who always said, "I love the pleasure of my own company." And I think that idea of pleasure is that key difference. Solitude is a choice. We can choose to have time just to ourselves for so many different reasons. Some people get energy by being alone, or maybe just with one person or
Mm,
with their pet.
yeah.
Other people get a lot of energy by being with people. So, number one, we need to understand for ourselves, is solitude, time alone, nourishing for us? Does it feel
Oh,
pleasant? Are we choosing it as opposed to feeling like we don't have a choice?
mhm,
Uh, and then also, is that beneficial solitude being used for things that make us feel connected, um, it- uh, connected especially to like our sense of purpose or enjoyment. Now,
mhm,
loneliness, the harmful piece is when we are feeling that sense of isolation, or as you mentioned earlier, disconnection, as if there are maybe no people in our lives at all. That's a little different from loneliness, but we can talk
mhm,
about both. But especially when we have other people and connections in our lives and we're dissatisfied with them. They're not as meaningful as we might like them. Maybe we're pulling back and hesitating to engage with the people or activities or communities that we do have access to. That's when we're starting to get into the harmful territory, because we know that those psychological components of feeling that lack of meaning in relationship is where a lot of the harm begins to come, let
mm,
alone the harm of literally not connecting with other humans. Or at times pets have a joyous role as well. There's a lot of research out there and talks about that.
mhm,
But the ability to have that human to human interaction in some way is really essential for our physical health as well as our mental health. And so that's where that risk comes in. If we're finding that we're regularly by ourselves, not connecting, or when we are connecting, we're not satisfied.
okay. Could you share some of the effective strategies that have helped your clients and transform their experience of loneliness into this self-discovery?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, I think the self-reflection component, being able to understand what is it about loneliness that's bothering me. So, as an example, for some people, it's the reality that the relationships that they've had with others have changed over time.
Okay.
And so there's sadness and loss in that change. And many people feel like, I don't know what to do about that. There might be conflicting wishes. I want to talk to the person about the fact that it's changed and I need something different, but I'm scared to,
Mm,
or I can't, or I shouldn't, or if I did that, it would be inappropriate or a burden. So getting over some of those reservations has been really helpful. And then in terms of the loneliness that then can be used for additional growth and self-reflection, many of my clients have reconnected with hobbies and interests that maybe long ago they abandoned for whatever
mhm,
reasons. We have helped them get reconnected to the things that are interesting, that make them feel alive, especially if those are things that they might be able to do on their own. And then finally, depending on the challenges that each person is having, we really work to say, are you ready to try to re-engage either with the people who you have access to or with people who would be new to you? Maybe
mm.
going to a class, etc. So those would be some straightforward examples of what some of my clients have done and found helpful and successful. It's not
Right.
easy work, but it's doable.
Right. What role do you believe self-reflection plays in combating loneliness among the elderly? And talk about what self-reflection really means. Sounds
Mhm.
like lack of it sounds a little fluffy, a little touchy-feely.
Yeah.
Break that down to what it means, and also scientifically, maybe for your brain or how it plays out.
Sure. So being able to reflect on oneself is to really look at what matters to me, what's important. A lot of times I work with my clients and many other therapists think about where are your values? What are those topics or areas in your life that have always mattered to you that you might maybe get into a debate about or that you feel really strongly about? You literally feel that passion in your body. Being able to know what those are can be an important part of self reflection because we're connecting to the things that are important to us. The other component is, of course, being in touch with number one, our emotions and feelings, which can be tough for a lot of people. Many times people don't understand the complexity of feelings, or they don't have the words or to identify what they're feeling, and that can add to confusion and frustration. So getting used to what emotions am I feeling, if I'm feeling any, do I know how to describe them? Another way of doing self reflection can literally be listening to our body. Are we
Wow.
noticing tension in certain areas of our body? Maybe stomach aches, maybe headaches, maybe the proverbial butterflies are tossing in the stomach when we're in certain situations. Our bodies over time were developed really to give us messages about what's going on for us. So we can also notice if we're feeling discomfort in our body or on the opposite, ease, right? Feeling calm, relaxed. That also can help us understand what's going on for ourselves. So I would tie that to the idea of self reflection as well. And I
Wow.
won't go into the depths of this idea about like identity, which is also
Okay.
another piece of self and self reflection. It's a little more complicated than what we have time for today, but
Mhm.
that would be another aspect of self reflection. And if you have some thoughts or we want to talk about some areas to really hone in on related to loneliness, we can absolutely cover that too.
Wow. So let's go to discuss therapeutic practices that promote emotional well-being and connection for older adults.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the ideas that we've just mentioned of being able to help them understand with the loneliness component, right? What's missing?
Mm,
Why is that missing uh, important to them? Right. So, for example, we hear a lot of times with older adults who have adult children, the
mm,
sense of missing understanding the details of what their child is going through.
mm,
Or, say, for example, grandchildren. In the world, so many people are so busy that there's not a ton of time. And so many clients will talk about, I feel like I don't even know my grandchildren, and I'm not sure
mm,
how to make that happen. And I don't know how to talk to my kids about that without adding one more demand to their schedule, right? So that's an example of like why it matters. I want to know my grandchildren. That's important to me. And that's why I'm feeling lonely and disconnected. That gives us an entry point into what to take steps on. Again, if the person is willing to take steps on that. So identifying the need that's missing, and then the other piece is what's the impact for you, right? Are you beginning to feel extraordinarily sad on a regular basis because of this sense of relationship disconnection? Are you worried that maybe people won't be there for you or you won't
mm,
have a network of people to reach out to if you're going through something, even if that's just an emotional stress, a hard time you want to bounce off of someone, or certainly if we need help with something? So if we start to really have those more unpleasant, concerning feelings like depression, like anxiety, then of course through therapy, we would really try to address those feelings so that we can hopefully prevent them from truly becoming a disabling condition, which we know oftentimes, unfortunately, depression and anxiety can become. And sometimes loneliness is that entry point into those more significant levels of emotional concern.
Wow, I think that's very interesting how you talk about not knowing, for example, not knowing grandkids and feeling lonely. And I think that's really I think that's a key point I'm going to take away. How can seniors cultivate new relationships and strengthen existing ones despite physical or social limitations?
Mhm. One thing that I think is so important, and I think it goes sometimes in one ear and out the other because sometimes older folks are tired of hearing it. If there are any challenges that you have in getting around, walking, mobility, maybe difficulty hearing, maybe some vision changes or loss of vision, I really invite you, look at what the accommodations are for those things like hearing aids, which I know are complicated and not always effective.
Yeah.
That being said, we know that if we don't have the physical ability to access other people because we can't hear well, or because we can't leave our home with ease, or maybe we're worried about connecting with others because of incontinence. We don't want to be embarrassed if something were to happen when we're with people. Please, like, work with a doctor, address those. That's my number one. Like, get the adaptations. Then, of course, look at like who is in your network right now.
Mhm.
What is already available to you? How might you be able to take one step that would get you reconnected to the people or activities that are already in your orbit? And then, of course, if you don't have those, or you feel like those aren't quite what I want something new, then it's the time to start exploring what are other ways to meet other people. That might be meeting other older people, right? Through a wide variety of aging focused services. But I hear time and time again, I don't want to go and I don't want to meet old
Old
people.
people, sure.
Right? So the other thing that I really think is important is to realize we can have friends of all ages. It can be challenging. We can feel uncomfortable wondering if we might be the only older person in the room if we go to the jazz club on Thursday night.
Mhm.
Yes, let's address that. Know that that might be a risk. And what might be the reward if we take that step to go to a place to do something that we enjoy, that connects us to something that other people might also enjoy, regardless of their age. And then we might have the opportunity, at the very least, to simply say, "Hi, what brought you here tonight?" Small talk, etc. That then begins our opportunity to start connecting with others who are brand new to us.
So this is we have a question, and you talk about beginning opportunities, and I think it kind of leans into our next question a little bit about feeling isolated and
Mm,
how do you reach out. This individual says, "What if your husband has passed away and
mm,
you have no children?
yeah.
How do you start reaching out?"
I think that's such a great question. And it points to the reality that for some people, loneliness begins when there is a specific loss of a person who's been so integral to our life, like a partner or a spouse.
Mhm.
Right. So, one thing that I would certainly say, of course, I'm terribly sorry for your loss. I'm glad you're here today and wanting to learn more. Uh, again, are there people who you once had a connection with, who you still know how to connect with? Maybe you have their phone number or their email address or their mailing address. Might there be an opportunity to reach out to them and say, if they don't know already, hey, you might not know, my husband died, and I wanted you to know that. And I'm beginning to reconnect with people in my life now that he's gone. If you're open to this, give me a phone call or send me an email or write back to this, and we'll find a way to make that happen. That, I think, would be my number one first step. And then the other thing that might be helpful specific to grieving, right, is that for some people, they meet others through support groups or other community groups. And we know that there are many bereavement groups. If you're open to considering going to a bereavement group, you might meet other people who are also experiencing loss. They'll understand what you're going through, and they probably are going to get that it's hard to start to reconnect with people when maybe we've not been able to connect with them, either because we're one of those people who just feels better in a one-on-one relationship. So maybe we've not attended to our other relationships over the course of our marriage or partnership, or maybe you were caregiving and just didn't have time and ability to connect with people. I hope that helps.
That's great. Can you provide examples how embracing technology has helped your clients reduce feelings of isolation?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I know technology can be a little controversy. Those of you who are here today, sounds like you've either embraced technology or you have a way of being able to access it. Fantastic. I would say, in terms of connecting with other people, a lot of my clients have really enjoyed developing text messaging relationships with others. That might be friends. Many of them have found that text messaging relationships have been really powerful with their grandchildren. Of course, we have the interactive video options through our mobile devices like FaceTime or Zoom. Many people have really used that to reconnect and be able to physically see others who might not be able to either get out of the house or find the time to travel to be together, or maybe they're in another state or in another country. And then, of course, there's a lot of online programming that is available. Some of it is aging specific, but others are not. So joining an online lecture class, looking for what are called lifelong learning institutes. Many of those are online. There are other programs. I know the brand Road Scholar, which is known for travel. They actually have a few free, no cost interactive lectures around travel. So a lot of people have enjoyed doing that to feel connected to other people, even if there might not be a live component where you can interact with the others who are participating. There's something powerful in knowing, like, there are other people who are also sharing this experience right now, even if we're not physically together. So those would be my top tech suggestions. And of course, we know that AARP has tons of online events as well, which is also really great.
Yeah, and you can always volunteer with AARP. We can have volunteer opportunities online or in person. But I think I'm going back to what you said originally about, I think personally, about isolation that can lead to depression with your grandkids and not knowing them. And it's very hard when you're in faraway states. You can't just jump in the car and go to the soccer game, or, go to the pool. Or you have limitations, or even limitations in funding, being able to get there.
Yeah.
And so breaking and getting the help to understand that emotion is very important. And you're right. A text message, how much that I communicate with my friends and my father on text messaging. And even to this day, my husband can send me a funny picture, and I'm like, your kindness made me feel good. It's there's
Yes.
benefits to it, definitely.
Absolutely.
So,
And just popping in on that idea that, just saying hi on a text message isn't going to matter. Sometimes when we've been feeling lonely or feeling like our relationships aren't serving us, we get into this unintentional negative thinking pattern where things aren't quite enough. They're not going to be satisfying. Why bother? That's not going to matter. However, if we can work through those, to take those action steps, oftentimes what can happen is that then that little meaning of saying hi, or here's a picture that made me think of you, or then we can even send something out to someone who we care about. I know you love donuts, and I saw this funny image and it made me think of you. It's those aspects of meaning of saying or receiving, I know this thing about you. I honor
I
that.
love that. I love
That's
that.
the part that really starts to unlock that loneliness concern, because like we talked about, loneliness is that dissatisfaction, like something isn't quite right in an existing relationship. And often what's missing is that sense of someone truly understanding us, getting us, knowing us, or
Yeah.
the connection just feels too surface, or a little impersonal. So we want to try and find these ways to personalize those connections when we can.
That is so great, especially with individuals who have grandkids that are, they're doing 32 sports, and parents are driving them around, and they still got school, they got their friends. So being able to connect and how to communicate, I think it's I mean, I love what you're saying this. And I think another point that I'm grabbing from this is sometimes it, lack of a better term, it gets in our mind and we start overthinking it. And it's easy to let the overthink
Mhm.
unintentionally not be in
Right.
a positive manner. And it's really just taking the first step, even if it's something ridiculous. Like, I saw this, take a picture, and I saw this. I can't believe it. I thought of you. Remember when you loved this? And that's okay.
Right. Or
Um,
send it in the mail or do a phone call if you're uncomfortable with technology.
I
Mhm.
know. I'll be honest, I FaceTime my kids all the time, like, "Look at me, look where I'm at." "Mom," they could care less. Can you provide, let me see where we are, my goodness. How can family members and caregivers support older adults in their journey towards overcoming loneliness? I think we talked about it a little bit, but let's dive a little deeper in that.
Absolutely. Number one, related to like breaking down the barriers. If there is a physical or financial or sensory barrier, like work to break that down. I've seen that in my own family system. My in-law is a 95-year-old woman who's in a wonderful matriarch in her family, but she has had profound hearing loss. And
Oh,
so one of the things that the family has done is really make sure that they make the extra effort to reach out to her, to have make sure that she has the adaptive technology so that she can see typed out written words on the telephone. That's made it easier for her to connect with everyone through telephone. And then also like changing the setting in which you're meeting with someone. If someone's struggling with hearing loss and that's why they're maybe disconnecting, or you're finding it difficult to connect with them one-on-one, doing some Google searches for effective communication when there is hearing loss. We can do certain things in the way we talk to people that makes it easier for them to hear, even if the hearing loss is still present or not ideally addressed through a hearing aid. Smaller locations. The other thing is, if the older person is not reaching out, you got to do the reach out. Like, please just get it started. And then if you are able to be in person, don't underestimate the power of touch. Of course, you're going to know the older people in your lives, hopefully, well enough to know if touch is something they're comfortable with or not. But we know that when people are feeling lonely, disconnected, the power of even just touching a hand, touching a shoulder, offering a hug, that also is really important. So those would be some early steps that family members or people who maybe want to connect with older adults in their community could consider.
it's when you talk about the power of touch. I was a year or so ago. I went on a trip, and I saw a husband and wife, and you could tell the wife was extremely stressed out, just in her shoulders. And the husband didn't say, and I just saw it from a distance. He put his hand gently on her knee, and I've never seen before. She just melted. He didn't say anything. It was just a gentle kindness, and it was just her ease went down. I thought, and that kind of speaks to the power of touch. It was,
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
here. I see it. I hear you. So
Yes.
it was
Being
it was
present.
it was it was almost beautiful in the essence of like their love. That I thought
Mhm.
that was, nothing was said. It was just, and I was just from a distance. So we are about done with our time, but I want us to go. Any advice you have for older adults who may be reluctant, right, to talk about these feelings of loneliness? What what can you do to help? What do you say?
Sure, absolutely. I think sometimes we think that in order to take action, we need to act right away on the problem. So I'm lonely, so I need to do something about my loneliness. But
Hmm.
if you're feeling reluctant, maybe explore that first. Like, what's holding you back? There could be so many different things. Be specific, like really understand what is it that's telling me don't talk about this or don't take action on this. Maybe even write that down, because then you have specific things that you might be able to do some problem solving to figure out, is there a way to solve that barrier? Solve that reluctance. And it's okay to be reluctant. Like, you are the one who's going to make the decision about when you're ready, if you're ever ready to take action on this. So give yourself that kind permission, and then look at what's holding you back. And once you better understand what's holding you back, maybe start to take action on those things before you even start thinking about addressing the actual loneliness piece or how to connect with other people.
Yeah, give yourself a little grace.
Yeah.
I like that. You're the best. All right, thank you everyone for watching and joining us. This is, again, I feel like these are transformative. I mean, I'm just selfish, transformative for me. I see things in different ways and I'm more empathetic. And I feel like every time we have these conversations, Kate, there is a light bulb that goes off in my collective memory of understanding that situation better. And to be equipped with this now, I feel like I'm much more understanding and empathetic because I understand better. So thank you, Kate. Always valuable insights. Thank you for you, all of our listeners that have joined with us. For many, this may be the first step. And we're glad that we were able to be here with you. ARP has a tremendous volume of resources. If you are caregiving, at www.aarp.org/caregiving. And then if you need a resource line, 1-877-333-5885. Get help and talk with someone if you for caregiving, or if you need some help, please reach out. Great resources. Again, at the end of this segment, we're going to have a QR code. Just put your phone up in your camera and you'll get a link, and you can see all of our upcoming virtual events. So you aren't isolated. You can be with us virtually. Again, Kate, you're fabulous. I can't thank you enough. All of you joining us. This is the end of today's event, but we thank you and we hope to see you again. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.